Chapter 41. The Fake First Madame Zhou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41. The Fake First Madame Zhou. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Lu Sanyang nodded. Alright. Wei Shilai was right. If the Li Yaji in the residence was fake, the real Li Yaji had to be found as soon as possible. She could use her psychic ability to sense where Li Yaji might be at. Wei Shilai sighed. Sorry to trouble you again. Lu Sanyang shook her head. This was something she had done willingly. If she was unwilling, no one could have forced her. She wanted to do what she thought was right. In her previous life, after discovering Lu Shun's true colors, she had begged Madame Wei to turn down the marriage proposal. If she were to choose again, she'd do the same, because she would always follow her heart. Previously, Lu Sanyang had rejected Officer Zhou when he came to ask her for help because she did not want to have anything to do with this field. But now she thought that since she was gifted with this power, she might as well make the best use of it to help people. After this case, she would go to Officer Zhou and help him find his daughter. Thinking of Officer Zhou, Lu Sanyang recalled that she had seen some black aura around him at the government office. Lu Sanyang looked at Wei Shilai and Lin Zheng. There was no black aura around them. Wei Shilai struck her as a righteous person. When Lu Sanyang returned to the courtyard, she saw Chu Yen. Chu Yen was wearing a black guard uniform and holding a sword in his hand. He leaned against the courtyard door and looked at Lu Sanyang without blinking. Lu Sanyang did not move forward. She felt that her legs weighed 1,000 pounds. Ah, why is this lunatic staring at me like that? And, he actually smiled. What is he smiling at? She screamed internally. She lowered her head and suddenly wanted to run into the courtyard. She was really afraid that Chu Yen would stop her or tease her. Chu Yen did not do anything, but when Lu Sanyang ran past him, she heard his chuckle. Lu Sanyang quickly went back into the house, feeling relieved. After being frightened by Chu Yen, Lu Sanyang was no longer sleepy. Outside, it was almost approaching dawn. The maidservants had already woken up early to work. Lu Sanyang also got up. She heard Li Yaji's tired voice. Carry Miss away and take good care of her. Nanny looked relieved. Yes. She carried the child back to the nanny's house. Lu Sanyang followed. After entering the house, Nanny realized that Lu Sanyang was walking behind her. She asked vigilantly. Miss Lu, why are you following me? Lu Sanyang looked at Zhou Yanchu. Her nose was red and her long eyelashes were still wet from crying. Lu Sanyang asked. Did little miss cry all night last night? Nanny sighed. Yes. Whenever Madame touched her, she would burst out crying. I don't know what happened. Lu Sanyang asked her again. Does it usually happen? Nanny shook her head. No, Miss likes Madame a lot. Maybe it's because Madame has never slept with Mississippi. Miss Lu, if there's nothing else, please leave. I've been tortured enough during the entire night. I need to take a rest. Nanny yawned. She was very sleepy. The child was crying, so Li Yaji had no choice but to let the nanny feed her. But even though she was full, she continued sobbing. When she finally stopped crying, Nanny placed the child beside Li Yaji. But immediately, the child started howling again. After a night of torture, Nanny just wanted to have a good rest. Lu Sanyang nodded and turned to leave. If that was the case, her suspicions were quite possibly correct. Li Yaji had also been tortured for the entire night, so she had to catch up on her sleep as well. Other than the 2/3 class maidservants cleaning the courtyard, there were only 2nd class maidservants in the house. Granny Li and the 2 maidservants took this opportunity to rest. Lu Sanyang went to the kitchen to make tea and went into Li Yaji's house, holding a tray of tea. 2 classmates were dozing on the couch. In the house, Li Yaji was already asleep. Lu Sanyang did not approach her. She sat down at the table and tried to release her power to read Li Yaji from a distance. Her ability was stronger than before, but she was still a little too far away from the target. It didn't work after trying from where she was. Lu Sanyang could only enter the inner room quietly. On the rack were the clothes that Li Yaji had taken off. Li Yaji was sleeping soundly on the bed, under the blanket. Lu Sanyang walked over and gently opened her hand, releasing her power again. Perhaps it was because Li Yaji was asleep, Lu Sanyang could easily sense her memories. The moment she sensed Li Yaji's memories, Lu Sanyang knew that the person lying on the bed was not the real Li Yaji. The real Li Yaji was born in the capital. Her father was the Minister of State, Lord Li. She had been living a luxurious life since she was young and had an extremely good upbringing. She had studied the 4 arts and was pretty much a princess. The memories that Lu Sanyang sensed were filled with extremely cruel training. Time was limited, so Lu Sanyang did not pay attention to these memories. Instead, she focused on finding out if the real Li Yaji was still alive. Soon, Lu Sanyang retracted her hand. Li Yaji didn't wake up. She seemed to be dreaming and muttered in a daze. "Father, save me." Lu Sanyang had already pushed the door open and walked out, so she did not hear what the woman muttered. Lu Sanyang's heart was beating faster. The sky was already bright. When she went out, she was worried that she would bump into Chu Yan, but he had already changed shifts. Lu Sanyang heaved a sigh of relief. She went straight to see Wei Shilai. When Wei Shilai saw Lu Sanyang, he immediately stood up and asked. "Miss Lu, how is it?" Lin Jing quietly closed the door. She said, "She's fake. The person in the house is not the real First Madame Zhou." Wei Shilai was already mentally prepared, so when he heard Lu Sanyang say this, he did not react strongly. Instead, he asked calmly. "Where is the real Madame Zhou?" Lu Sanyang said, "She's still outside the city. She was knocked out when she went to the toilet after burning incense. The real First Madame Zhou was left in an abandoned house." After Wei Shilai heard that, he immediately said excitedly, "That's great. Things are much easier when we know where we need to go." Lu Sanyang recalled the memories she saw and frowned. "Sir, you have to be careful. There might be more than one psychic like her who can change their appearance at will." Lu Sanyang was now certain that the Li Yaji at the Zhou mansion was actually Hong Ying. Hong Ying worked for a powerful organization with a lot of psychics like her. They were well trained and seemed to possess some abilities. It would definitely be very difficult to deal with them. Chapter 42. Raiding the Abandoned House. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42. Raiding the abandoned house. When Wei Shilai thought of that scene, he knew how difficult it was going to be. However, he was almost determined to catch those criminals when he thought of the evil deeds they had done. Wei Shilai smiled at Lu Sanyang. "Miss Lu, please keep an eye on the fake Madame Zhou." Lu Sanyang nodded. Wei Shilai instructed Lin Jing. "You stay here and cooperate with Miss Lu. Don't let the fake one take Zhou Yanshu out of the mansion." Lin Jing said expressionlessly, "Don't worry, sir. I will definitely not let you down." Lin Jing was the chief of constables, and Wei Shilai believed in him. Wei Shilai nodded at Lu Sanyang and walked out. He had to hurry back to the government office and gather the guards of Yong County to surround the criminal den. Lu Sanyang also returned to the courtyard to watch the fake Li Yaji. At the same time, she hoped that Wei Shilai could successfully capture those criminals. In the fake Li Yaji's memory, Lu Sanyang saw that they had used various methods to take away many young children. This was not the first time Hong Ying carried out a mission. Hong Ying and her team were only responsible for bringing the children to a man in black, but Lu Sanyang could not see the man's face. In Yong County, a total of 10 young girls were lost. They were all abducted by Hong Ying and the others. After Wei Shilai left the Zhou mansion, he gathered his men and headed towards the abandoned house as quickly as possible. In the county office, only the janitors were left. The rest were all taken away by him. He mobilized 100 guards and dozens of constables to raid the den. In the abandoned house, several well-trained men had already prepared the carriage. Children with their eyes closed were carried into the carriage. Inside, the real Madame Zhou was tied up. She struggled with all her might, but no matter how hard she tried to speak, she could only make muffled sounds. At first, when she was abducted, Li Yaji was terrified. She was beautiful and had a noble status. If she was tainted, she would be too ashamed to live. But when she was brought to this abandoned house, she realized that this group of people were the human traffickers whom everyone was looking for. The cold-faced men did not look at her at all, but when they talked, they did not avoid Li Yaji. They even told Li Yaji, "Don't worry, when Hong Ying brings your daughter out, we'll let you go back." Li Yaji was extremely frightened. Her daughter, Zhou Yanshu, was her life. She knew that the woman called Hong Ying had already gone to steal her daughter. Li Yaji wished she could kill these people. Probably because he wanted to freak Li Yaji out, a man suddenly changed his appearance into that of hers. Seeing someone who looked exactly like her, Li Yaji fainted. When she woke up, she couldn't stop crying. What kind of monsters were these people? How could they transform into her? Did the woman named Hong Ying transform into looking like her as well? If so, she would most likely succeed in her task. Li Yaji wanted to escape, but she couldn't break free. In just one night, she became haggard and looked much older. Seeing that these people were about to retreat, Li Yaji lost all her hope and passed out again. The leader packed up everything and smiled at his teammates. "Let's go. We've already left a message for Hong Ying. She'll catch up with us when she comes back." The other man smiled. These officers are really useless and easy to fool. By the way, what's the name of the county magistrate? Wei Shilai, right? He won't be able to keep his position after this. The few of them chatted and laughed as they got up to leave. But at this moment, they heard the sound of horse hooves approaching. "What's going on? Let's go out and take a look." The man frowned. The few of them were about to go out when the guard outside ran in, shouting at the top of his lungs. "Officers! The officers are here." And there were a lot of them. They came with a purpose. How is that possible? Was it an accident? Someone asked with a panicked look on his face. Wei Shilai dismounted and frowned at the abandoned house and the carriage. He raised his hand and gestured for the officers to check. 2 officers went forward to examine it. Then they said excitedly, "Sir, children. The lost children." Wei Shilai heaved a sigh of relief. "Surround this place and arrest them all." Just now, he clearly saw someone sprinting into the house. This meant that this group of people had not run away yet. Now was the best time to catch them. Before the men could even discuss how to escape, they were surrounded by the officers who barged in. "Put down your weapons and surrender. Otherwise, I'll do it the hard way." Seeing that the real Madame Zhou wasn't taken hostage, Wei Shilai heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was glad that they reached here quickly. Otherwise, these people would have retreated. If they had come a quarter of an hour later, there would be nothing left. Even if they could protect the daughter of the Zhou family, they wouldn't be able to find the other children. Fortunately, they came in time. Wei Shilai had never been so proud of himself. When the government investigated a case, they had to find the evidence. Most of the time, by the time they found the evidence, the victims would be dead. This was the first time he had caught the criminals and saved the victims' lives. Knowing that they were people with special abilities, Wei Shilai even called well-trained soldiers. No matter how powerful they were still human. The human traffickers looked at each other and drew their swords. They did not know what had gone wrong, but they knew surrendering wasn't the way out. Only by killing all these people could they survive. Wei Shilai immediately ordered his men. Kill. It was naturally best if these criminals could be captured, but in this urgent situation, making sure his subordinates wouldn't get hurt was the most important. Moreover, there was still a criminal in the Zhou mansion whom he could capture and interrogate. After some fighting, few of the criminals were captured and some of the soldiers were wounded. Wei Shilai was extremely angry. Just as he was about to send these criminals back, he saw them tilt their heads and commit suicide. Wei Shilai was shocked. He had never seen anything like this before. Most criminals killed people for revenge. Even if they were caught, they would never commit suicide. These people committed suicide one after another without hesitation, as if they had been trained to do so. Wei Shilai felt a heaviness in his chest. He instructed his people to bring these corpses back. He immediately rushed to the Zhou mansion. He remembered what Lu Sanyang had said. These people might all be psychics. Their abilities were extraordinary. Wei Shilai was worried that something would happen at the Zhou mansion. Chapter 43. Set out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 43. Set out in the Zhou mansion. Lu Sanyang had been watching this fake Li Yaji since the morning. She knew that the woman was Hong Ying. Early in the morning, Hong Ying woke up. Everything was as usual. The servant girl helped her wash up and then she ate breakfast. She acted exactly like what the real Madame Zhou would. She even let Nanny carry Zhou Yanshu out to play. But strangely, the child cried when Hong Ying teased her. No one realized that the current Li Yaji was fake. They even said that it was because the weather was too hot and children typically didn't like hot weather. Hong Ying smiled. It's fine. Carry her away. She'll be fine after playing for a while. Hong Ying had never given birth before and did not understand why this child was crying so much. She felt it was very strange. Her current appearance and voice were no different from first Madame Zhou's. But the girl would cry whenever Hong Ying hugged her. After breakfast, she went to the main courtyard to greet old Master Zhou. If Lu Sanyang did not know that she was fake, she would have been fooled by her as well. Hong Ying did everything so meticulously that no one could see any flaws. To be honest, Lu Sanyang admired her. If it were her, she would definitely not be so calm, but Hong Ying managed to do it. BDNVL.M Lu Sanyang placed all her attention on Zhou Yanshu. The two of Li Yaji's personal maidservants were packing their things and seemed to be going out. Lu Sanyang frowned and went forward to take a look. She realized that they were packing Zhou Yanshu's things, clothes, saliva towels, and small toys. Lu Sanyang asked. Are you taking little miss out? Tao Hong and Lu Lu rolled their eyes and ignored Lu Sanyang. In their opinion, it was normal for Madame to take her daughter out to play. Why did Lu Sanyang have to be so nosy? Although she was ignored, Lu Sanyang was not angry. She smiled and said, Miss can't leave the mansion in the next few days. Tao Hong was a little angry. She turned around and placed her hands on her hips. Who are you to tell Madame what to do? Do you think our Madame will harm the child? Lu Lu snorted. Ignore her. Hurry up and pack up. If we don't pack up when Madame comes back, we'll be the ones getting punished. Lu Lu's tone was sour. Tao Hong snorted and ignored Lu Sanyang. She went back to pack things. Lu Sanyang left silently. She was anxious. She realized that if she let Hong Ying bring the child out, everything she had done so far would be in vain. Lu Sanyang wondered whether Wei Shilai had caught the criminals yet. After leaving the courtyard, she went to look for Lin Zheng. Hong Ying was not an ordinary person. It was impossible for Lu Sanyang to stop her alone. Lu Sanyang knew her limits. She was not as brave and capable as Hong Ying, so she wanted to ask Lin Jing for help. He was the constable head and could mobilize the constables in the residence. She needed to do everything to stall for time. When Lu Sanyang came to look for Lin Jing, she didn't see him, but she saw Zhu Zongyang. Zhu Zongyang was a little hostile towards Lu Sanyang. "Miss Lu, why are you leaving your post?" Lu Sanyang said anxiously, "Mr. Zhu, I'm looking for Constable Lin." "Where is he?" Zhu Zongyang said unhurriedly, "He went to do something. His lordship's deployment is so perfect that the criminal won't have a chance to sneak in." Zhu Zongyang did not believe in Lu Sanyang when she said the criminal could change her appearance at will. Lu Sanyang said, "She is already in the mansion. This Madame Zhou is fake." Zhu Zongyang was stunned for a moment before smiling coldly. "Miss Lu, I don't know how you made Magistrate Wei believe you so much, but I'm different from him. You said that this Madame Zhou is fake, but where's the evidence? I heard that she went to pay her respects to old Master Zhou. Do you think old Master Zhou won't be able to tell if she is real or not?" Zhu Zongyang's tone was filled with sarcasm. Looking at Lu Sanyang who remained quiet, he knew that she had no evidence. Lu Sanyang frowned. Zhu Zongyang did not believe her, and she did not have the time to persuade him. She turned around and ran out. The constables guarding the courtyard would not suspect someone who looked exactly like Madame Zhou. Even the maidservants did not find her strange, so how could others suspect her? When Lu Sanyang rushed back to the courtyard, Hong Ying had already returned. She was wearing a gorgeous dress and looked elegant. With a smile on her face, she pressed her face against Zhou Yanchu. "Sweetheart, I'll take you out to play today." Perhaps because she was unfamiliar with the smell, Zhou Yanchu looked at this woman who looked exactly like her mother in a daze. Then, she pouted and was about to cry. She didn't understand why the smell was different even though she looked like her mother. Hong Ying did not hug her, so Zhou Yanchu didn't howl. The maidservant immediately hugged her and coaxed her. The maidservant often carried Zhou Yanchu, so Zhou Yanchu was familiar with her smell. When Lu Sanyang saw that they were about to set out, she felt like a huge mountain was pressing down on her. Hong Ying smiled and said, "Let's go. The sooner we go out, the sooner we'll be back." Lu Sanyang blocked the entrance of the courtyard. "You're not allowed to go out." Hong Ying frowned. Before she could speak, her maidservant, Tao Hong and Lu Lu said coldly, "You're really annoying. Get out of the way." Lu Lu rolled up her sleeves. "Get out of the way. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Lu Sanyang's expression turned cold. "If I really let you go today, when the real Madame Zhou comes back, she will kill you." Chapter 44. Real and Fake. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. Real and Fake. Lu Lu was shocked. She was stunned by Lu Sanyang and couldn't speak for a moment. "Are you saying I'm a fake?" "Haha. Ridiculous." Hong Ying's eyes turned cold. She sneered and looked at Lu Sanyang. She was not flustered and still looked calm. The maidservants and servants beside her looked at Lu Sanyang angrily. They didn't believe Lu Sanyang. Lu Lu glared at Lu Sanyang angrily. "You said that our madam is fake. Where's the evidence? I think you're just full of nonsense. How dare you suspect that our madam is fake?" Lu Lu glared at Lu Sanyang coldly. She did not want to say anything to Lu Sanyang and pushed her away. Conflict was something that Lu Sanyang had never experienced in her previous life. She took a few steps back and left the courtyard. She shouted to the constables not far away. "Hurry up and stop them. This Madame Zhou is fake. If she brings little miss out, Magistrate Wei will definitely punish you when he comes back." The constables quickly ran over. However, they did not trust Lu Sanyang, nor did they dare to let the people in the courtyard leave. Hence, one of them immediately went to look for the assistant. Without Magistrate Wei and Constable Lin around, the assistant could decide upon most of the things. Lu Sanyang was worried. Lu almost hit her just now. She had never fought with anyone in her life, so on instinct, she retreated. Now, she only hoped that Wei Shilai could quickly bring the real Madame Zhou back. Lu Sanyang looked at Hong Ying in the courtyard and her heart skipped a beat. Hong Ying's expression did not change. She was not flustered. Why was she so calm? Was she so confident that Lu Sanyang could not expose her identity? She was obviously a powerful psychic. Lu Sanyang frowned. She had already thought that even if Wei Shilai brought the real Madame Zhou back, Hong Ying could still accuse the real one of being fake. If only there was a way to make her reveal herself. Zhu Zongyang quickly came over. Lu Sanyang was about to ask Zhu Zongyang to help stop Hong Ying from leaving, but Zhu Zongyang did not even give her a chance to speak. He scolded her with a dark face. What are you doing? Do you know who you are? Do you know who Madame Zhou is? Zhu Zongyang scolded Lu Sanyang without thinking. If he offended Lu Sanyang, she would not be able to do anything to him. But if he offended first Madame Zhou, he would not be able to keep his job. Hong Ying smiled. Assistant Zhu, if there's nothing else, please get your people to move aside. I'm going out to play with my daughter today and buy some clothes for her. Zhu Zongyang smiled. Absolutely, madam. Hurry up and move aside. All of you, move aside. Zhu Zongyang turned around and roared coldly. The constables, unable to make up their minds, looked at each other and silently stepped aside. What Lu Sanyang said was not backed by any evidence, so obviously they were more willing to listen to Assistant Zhou. Lu Sanyang was so angry that she almost cried. The servant girl beside Hong Ying glared at Lu Sanyang coldly. If she did not move aside, she would be beaten. Lu Sanyang was angry and anxious. What should she do? What else could she do? She felt powerless. A voice came from behind Lu Sanyang. Don't be afraid. Chu Yan was already standing behind Lu Sanyang. He was tall and expressionless. Only when he looked at Lu Sanyang did his eyes show some gentleness. Be no calm with him around, for some reason, Lu Sanyang was no longer that afraid. Zhu Zongyang frowned and looked at Chu Yan. Who are you? Move aside. If Chu Yan was not a constable, then he must be a guard hired by the Zhou mansion. Why was this guard so disobedient? Chu Yan did not even look at Zhu Zongyang. He stood behind Lu Sanyang like an iron wall. Hong Ying frowned and turned to talk to Zhu Zongyang. Assistant Zhu, what is going on here? Zhu Zongyang looked at Lu Sanyang angrily. Miss Lu, stop fooling around. Lu Sanyang was very determined. Assistant Zhu, this Madame Zhou is fake. Believe me, Magistrate Wei has gone to save the real Madame Zhou. You say she's a fake, but you don't have any evidence. The commotion here had already alarmed Old Master Zhou. Butler Zhou had immediately informed Old Master Zhou and reported the matter. Old Master Zhou immediately rushed over. Old Master Zhou, why are you here? When Zhu Zongyang saw that Old Master Zhou was here, he felt enormous pressure coming on and became even more dissatisfied with Lu Sanyang. Old Master Zhou looked at Lu Sanyang. Hong Ying bowed. Great-grandfather, I'm really sorry for disturbing you. Old Master Zhou looked at Hong Ying as if he was trying to see through her. Hong Ying did not dodge and allowed herself to be sized up. Her words and actions were no different from that of a young and rich lady. Old Master Zhou looked at Lu Sanyang. Miss, why are you so certain without having evidence? Lu Sanyang looked at Hong Ying. Then madam, please wash your face. When Zhu Zongyang saw Hong Ying smiling mockingly, he wanted to punch Lu Sanyang in the face. How dare she ask First Madame Zhou to wash her face in front of everyone? Miss Lu, stop joking. This is not a place for you to fool around. Zhu Zongyang's tone was already very cold and held warning. Lu Sanyang ignored Zhu Zongyang. Hong Ying's expression was cold. If you said so. Tao Hong, Lu, go get water. She was not in disguise. She literally had Madame Zhou's face. Even her bones were identical to First Madame Zhou's. Not to mention the Zhou family, even if First Madame Zhou's parents came, they would not be able to tell that she was fake. Chapter 45. Who's the fake? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. Who's the fake? The servants in the courtyard looked at Lu Sanyang with murderous eyes. Tao Hong had already handed Zhou Yanshu to Granny Li and went in to get water with Lu. Under everyone's gaze, Hong Ying slowly stretched out her slender and fair hands and allowed the servant girls to wash her face. Tao Hong and Lu had been serving Li Yaji for more than 10 years. The two of them were also on tenterhooks, afraid that something would happen or a piece of her skin would be rubbed off. After all, Lu Sanyang sounded very confident. If this madam was really fake, how would the real madam punish them when she returned? After cleaning Madame Zhou's face, the two servant girls heaved a sigh of relief. Then they burst into a fury. Miss Lu, do you have anything to say now? The two of them looked at Lu Sanyang and said coldly. Lu Sanyang indeed didn't have anything to say. She was just stalling for time by asking Hong Ying to wash her face. She was anxious now, not knowing why Magistrate Wei wasn't here yet. As long as Wei Shilai came back, she would not be under so much pressure. Zhu Zongyang no longer cared about paying Lu Sanyang any heed. He ordered coldly. Go and drag her away. Then, he apologized to Hong Ying. Madam, please don't mind her. She is just a poor girl and doesn't know much about rules. Hearing Zhu Zongyang's instructions, the constable quickly went to pull Lu Sanyang. However, before he could touch Lu Sanyang's sleeve, Chu Yen grabbed his hand. Though he did not say anything, he made it very clear that with him around, no one could touch Lu Sanyang. What's wrong with you, kid? Get out of here and stop causing trouble. If not for the fact that Chu Yen was tall and did not look like someone to be trifled with, Zhu Zongyang would have personally beaten him up. With a glance from Chu Yen, Zhu Zongyang immediately broke out in cold sweat and his face turned pale. When Lin Zheng returned from the government office and saw this scene, he quickly walked to Lu Sanyang's side. Miss Lu, what's wrong? Wei Shilai had gotten him to take charge of the situation in this mansion. Seeing that there was nothing much to do, he returned to the government office to ask if Magistrate Wei had returned. Then, he rushed back. However, he did not expect something to take place while he was gone. Seeing that Lin Zheng was here, Lu Sanyang said, Magistrate Wei is not back yet. The fake Madame Zhou wants to take little miss away, so I stopped her. Zhu Zongyang also quickly reacted. Lin Zheng, don't listen to her nonsense. She is the first madam of the Zhou family, not a criminal. Lu Sanyang, what else do you want to do? Madame Zhou just washed her face. What else do you want? Zhu Zongyang didn't want to have anything to do with Lu Sanyang at this moment, afraid that later he'd be punished by the Zhou family. After Zhu Zongyang finished speaking, he thought that Lin Zheng would stand on his side. Unexpectedly, Lin Zheng looked at Hong Ying seriously. Then, he turned to Old Master Zhou and cupped his hands. Old Master Zhou, I'm instructed by Magistrate Wei to not let anyone take away little miss before he comes back, not even Madame Zhou. Besides, why is Madame in such a hurry to take her daughter out? For the sake of the child's safety, she should stay in the mansion. Hong Ying frowned and looked a little unhappy. It doesn't matter if I get out or not, but everyone will get unhappy when people accuse them of being fake. Constable Lin, don't you think so? Hong Ying was just unhappy that Lin Zheng had interrupted and ruined her plan. She did not feel flustered or frustrated at all. Lin Zheng looked at Hong Ying. Madam is right. After saying that, Lin Zheng said to Lu Sanyang, Miss Lu, Madam Zhou is not going out. Apologize to her. Lu Sanyang said, I'm also taking little Miss's safety into consideration. I'm sorry. I'm sure you won't mind since you love little Miss so much. Hong Ying glanced at Lu Sanyang and sneered. Let's go back. Old Master Zhou narrowed his eyes. Zhu Zongyang wiped his forehead and was about to explain when Old Master Zhou turned around and left. After Old Master Zhou left, the servants in the mansion dispersed as well. The courtyard was also closed by the servant girl, clearly not allowing Lu Sanyang to enter again. Zhu Zongyang glared at Lu Sanyang and was about to reprimand her. Lin Jing spoke first. Miss Lu, it's all because of you this time. When magistrate returns, he will thank you properly. Fortunately, Lu Sanyang withstood the pressure and did not back off. If this fake had really taken Zhou Yanshu out, it would have been a huge mistake. Zhu Zongyang was stunned. Lin Zheng, you. Why are you also? Lin Zheng shot an angry look at Zhu Zongyang and did not say anything. His mission was to guard this courtyard and wait for Magistrate Wei to return. Until then, not a fly could go out. Since Lu Sanyang could not return to the courtyard, she planned to wait in the courtyard arranged by the Zhou mansion for Wei Shilai. After taking a few steps, she realized that Chu Yen was following her. Her heart trembled. For some reason, when there was no one around, she was afraid of Chu Yen. But the weird thing was that she actually felt safe being with Chu Yen just now. Now, her entire body was tense. If she walked fast, Chu Yen would walk fast too. She turned around and lowered her head. Stop following me. Chu Yen said, the shoes you made are very good. Only then did Lu Sanyang notice that the shoes Chu Yen was wearing had been made by her. Lu Sanyang blushed immediately. Ah, how dare he walk around in those shoes? What a shameless person. Chu Yen smiled and was in a good mood. He turned around and left. Lu Sanyang watched him leave and heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, she was angry and helpless. She stomped her feet and bit her lip before leaving. Shameless. Shameless. In the afternoon, Wei Shilai came back. The real Madame Zhou, Li Yaji, was also brought back. However, she was only wearing ragged clothes and was disheveled, looking nothing like a rich person. Wei Shilai brought Li Yaji to see old Master Zhou immediately. Her eyes were red and swollen as she said, Great-grandfather, I'm Li Yaji. Old Master Zhou could not even recognize her. Now, there were two Li Yaji. They looked identical and their voices were the same. It was really difficult to tell them apart. Old Master Zhou calmed down and said, go and invite Madame over. Let's see who is fake and who is real. Chapter 46. Confrontation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 46. Confrontation. The only option left was for the two Li Yaji to confront each other. Li Yaji was stunned for a moment before looking at Yu Shilai. Mr. Yu, is the criminal who impersonated me still in the mansion? Wei Shilai nodded. They were exactly the same. If not for Lu Sanyang's psychic ability, everyone would be fooled. Li Yaji immediately felt dizzy. She burst into rage. Quick, go and save Yanshu. How can we let Yanshu stay with her? As Li Yaji spoke, she staggered up and ran out. She was kidnapped and saw some terrifying scenes there. They did not give her anything to eat. She even cried for a long time. At this moment, she did not have much strength. However, she was really concerned about her daughter's safety. Even though she was weak, she still stumbled and ran towards her courtyard. Li Yaji, who was disheveled and poorly dressed, didn't look like a lady from a rich family at all. Even old Master Zhou began to wonder if she was real. But Li Yaji could no longer wait. She was eager to see if her daughter was safe. I can't wait. Old Master Zhou had already stood up and walked out silently. Only then did Wei Shilai have a chance to ask Lu Sanyang. Miss Lu, did anything happen in this mansion? Lu Sanyang told Wei Shilai about what occurred earlier. Wei Shilai looked at Lu Sanyang gratefully. Miss Lu, thank you. Wei Shilai was glad that Lu Sanyang did not back off. Otherwise, the outcome would have been catastrophic. Lu Sanyang asked. Sir, did everything go well on your side? Wei Shilai shook his head. They almost escaped, but after knowing that they couldn't, they committed suicide. I've already asked the coroner to do an autopsy. Wei Shilai felt a lingering fear just thinking about it. If he went any later, these girls who were less than 2 years old would be taken away and might never be found again. Lu Sanyang looked at Wei Shilai and said solemnly, Sir, the person behind this is powerful. The woman who impersonated First Madame Zhou is called Hong Ying. I saw all the memories of her training. This is not her first time committing a crime. Wei Shilai felt a tightness in his chest. When he heard what Lu Sanyang said, anger surged in him. These people simply deserved no pity. Miss Lu, do you have a way to capture this woman and keep her alive? Then, you can read her mind. It's best if you can find more clues. Wei Shilai knew this case was connected with something much bigger. Now that it was confirmed, this was already beyond his ability to handle it. He wanted to collect more evidence and report it to the emperor. Lu Sanyang was in a difficult position. I don't know. If they really fought, she was definitely not Hong Ying's match. Wei Shilai wanted her to use her psychic power to deal with Hong Ying, but Lu Sanyang did not know other than reading people's mind. What else could she do with her ability? Wei Shilai sighed. Li Yaji stumbled back to the courtyard and knocked on the door. Tao Hong, Lu, open the door. Granny, open the door and bring Yan Shu out. Hurry. Li Yaji felt that she had used up all her strength. She had never been so tired before. She leaned against the door and sat down weakly. When she thought of someone impersonating her, Li Yaji trembled in fear. At the thought that her dear daughter was still inside, she had no choice but to continue banging on the door. The servant girl quickly opened the door. When she saw the familiar face, she screamed in fear. Ah, hearing the scream, Tao Hong and Lu, who were waiting in the room, come out. Lu scolded her. Why are you screaming? Didn't I say that no one is allowed to open the door without Madame's permission? Why are you? Ah, before she could finish, she saw Li Yaji and let out an ear-piercing scream. Li Yaji had already stood up slowly with the help of the door frame. Tao Hong, Lu, where's Yan Shu? Hurry up and bring her to me. Tao Hong and Lu opened their mouths but couldn't utter a sound, their eyes wide with fear. 2 madams. How was that possible? Madam, Tao Ho called instinctively. Li Yaji looked anxious. Where is Yan Shu? Where is my precious daughter? Li Yaji was most worried about her daughter. She did not have the time to explain anything to the 2 maidservants. She just wanted to confirm if her daughter was safe. What's going on outside? Why is it so noisy? Hong Ying's voice came from inside the house. Soon, she came out, followed by Granny Li and Nanny, who was carrying the child. Li Yaji felt like she was about to suffocate when she saw someone who looked exactly like her walk out. Li Yaji shivered and all the hair on her body stood up. Monster, you're a monster. The person in front of her was no different from her in terms of appearance, voice, and figure. She was not a human, but a monster in human skin. All the servants dropped their jaws at the sight of 2 identical Madame Zhou. Li Yaji came back to her senses and rushed over, wanting to tear off Hong Ying's face to show everyone that she was fake. However, Hong Ying wouldn't let her approach so easily. Her expression turned cold. Tao Hong, Lulu, what are you waiting for? Catch this impostor. Hong Ying's voice was stern. Tao Hong and Lulu immediately stopped the real Li Yaji. In any case, they weren't to blame for not being able to tell apart these two madams, because they looked exactly like each other. Hong Ying was domineering. She did not show any fear or guilt. The servants did not dare to disobey her. On the other hand, the real Li Yaji was in a sorry state with a miserable face. She did not look like a girl from a rich family at all. Li Yaji was grabbed by her maidservant and screamed. Tao Hong, Lulu, can't you even recognize me? What's the use of having you two with me for so many years? I will sell the two of you. Li Yaji was furious. The servant girls who had been with her since she was young could not recognize her. When Tao Hong and Lulu heard that, their hearts trembled. They didn't know whom to believe, but when Li Yaji said that she was going to sell them, the two of them instantly treated her as a fake. Chapter 47. Can't tell them apart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 47. Can't tell them apart. Lulu grabbed Li Yaji tightly in her arms and gritted her teeth. You're the impostor. Our madam won't treat us like this. Tao Hong echoed immediately. Yes, madam would never sell us. Li Yaji exploded with anger. When old Master Zhou arrived, all the servants were relieved. Li Yaji broke down and shouted. Old Master, I'm the real Li Yaji. She's fake. You have to save Yan Shu. Hong Ying's expression was calm. Old Master, where did this impostor come from? Does she think she can distort the truth just by shedding a few tears? Li Yaji was burning with anxiety. Looking at old Master Zhou's incredulous and hesitant look, she was so anxious that she cried. She turned to look at Wei Shilai for help. Magistrate Wei, tell them that I'm the real one. It was you who saved me. Wei Shilai frowned and said seriously, that's right, she's the real Madame Zhou. I rescued her from the criminal den. Wei Shilai looked at Hong Ying. Under normal circumstances, the impostor would have started to panic, but Hong Ying did not. Even when the real Madame Zhou was in front of her, she still did not hesitate and insisted that she was real. The servants sighed and did not even dare to breathe loudly. They had never expected that they would see two identical First Madame Zhou. It was simply mind-blowing. Old Master Zhou also took a deep breath. Seeing that Wei Shilai believed her, Li Yaji finally regained some composure. She looked at Hong Ying with killing intent. Unfortunately, her gaze could not kill. Otherwise, she really wanted to cut this impostor into pieces. Li Yaji looked away from Hong Ying and said to Granny Li, Granny, don't you even recognize me? You've watched me grow up. How can you not recognize me? Granny Li frowned. Madam, I'm old. You're both the same. How can I tell the difference? Granny Li looked at Hong Ying and then at Li Yaji. She was biased towards Hong Ying. After all, Li Yaji looked miserable, while Hong Ying was domineering. No matter how she looked at it, Hong Ying didn't look like the fake one. Li Yaji was a little disappointed. She took a deep breath and said, Granny, do you remember that 10 years ago, your son borrowed 100 taels of silver to gamble and lost it all? You were the one who begged me to save his life. And Tao Hong, when we were still in the capital, my mother matched you with a man, but you refused to marry him. You said that you would never marry and serve me for the rest of your life, remember? Lulu, you stole my hair accessories and sold them and were punished. Don't you remember it? The more Li Yaji spoke, the calmer she became. Although the impostor could have her appearance, figure, and voice, she couldn't have her memory. Previously, she was confused, angry, and anxious, so she didn't know what to do. But as long as she calmed down, she knew what to do. After Li Yaji finished speaking, the expressions of Granny Li, Tao Hong, and Lu Lu changed. They immediately stayed away from Hong Ying and knelt down, slapping their faces apologetically. Tao Hong and Lu Lu answered in a sobbing tone. "Madam, please forgive me. It's my fault that I didn't recognize you." Granny Li also slapped herself twice. "Madam, I'm wrong. You can punish me." Li Yaji heaved a sigh of relief. "It's good that you all know your mistake. I won't punish you. This is not entirely your fault." Nanny quickly carried Zhou Yenshu to Li Yaji. Wei Shilai was already prepared to let his subordinates arrest Hong Ying, but then he saw Hong Ying smile coldly. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat. Lu Sanyang's eyes widened. She was really impressed by Hong Ying's courage. She actually refused to admit she was fake at this time. Hong Ying smiled coldly. "Granny Li, are you really sure that she's real?" Granny Li was stunned and stammered. "Only Madam knows about what happened to my son." Hong Ying said unhurriedly, "At least give me a chance to speak." "Magistrate Wei, if you don't even give me a chance to respond, I'll suspect that you're colluding with the criminal." Wei Shilai said, "Go ahead." He was angry and helpless. She was different from all the criminals he had encountered. When criminals met an official, they would more or less get scared, but Hong Ying showed no such thing. Wei Shilai was sure that Hong Ying would never admit it. Unless he could remove her fake face in public, she would never admit that she was an imposter. Hong Ying's calm and arrogant attitude made people believe that she was actually the real one. Hong Ying smiled and said, "Granny Li, do you remember that after my mother found out that I gave you 100 taels of silver, you were flogged 10 times and knelt for a few days?" When Hong Ying said this, Li Yaji's face quickly turned pale and her eyes widened in disbelief. Seeing her like this, Lu Sanyang knew that things were getting out of hand. She did not expect Hong Ying to even have Li Yaji's memory. When Hong Ying saw Li Yaji break down again, she smiled smugly and continued. "Tao Hong, you don't want to get married, but you want to be my husband's concubine. Lu Lu, it's only right for you to be flogged 20 times. However, after all, you've been with me for so many years. How could I not care about you when you were suffering? You only recovered so quickly because I got someone to buy the best medicine for you." Granny Li, Tao Hong, and Lu Lu immediately stood up and moved away. They didn't even know which side they should go to now. Old Master Zhou frowned and said in a low voice, "Bring Yen Shu over." One of the two granddaughters. In law was definitely fake, but there was only one great granddaughter. No matter who was real or fake, the safety of the child was the most important. Li Yaji almost broke down. She opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. All the servants were looking away from her. Li Yaji looked at Wei Shilai, who said in a deep voice, "Madame Zhou, I believe you." However, he did not have any evidence. Without evidence, there was nothing he could do. Hong Ying stopped smiling and looked at Wei Shilai. "Magistrate Wei, you were the one who said that the criminal would steal my daughter from the Zhou mansion. You set up the defense and then brought back a woman who looks exactly like me, accusing me of being fake. What is your motive?" Wei Shilai frowned. "I'm an upright person. Don't slander me. What an arrogant criminal." She actually started to accuse him. Hong Ying snorted. "Who knows? After all, the word criminal isn't written on the face." Wei Shilai was so angry that his face turned livid. Damn it, how he wished he had the ability to tear off her fake mask and show everyone the ugly face underneath it. Chapter 48. No One Can Do It. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 48. No one can do it. It was precisely because no one could expose her that Hong Ying was so confident. Even if the real Madame Zhou was here, it didn't change a thing. Li Yaji was already tired. Angered and provoked by Hong Ying, she suddenly fainted. Her body was too weak to support her any longer. Lu Sanyang felt indignant at how shameless the criminal was. She thought that as long as Wei Shilai came back with the real Madame Zhou, the matter would be resolved. However, she did not expect this to happen. Hong Ying had the power and could change her appearance at will. Her ability was super strong, and she was exactly the same as Li Yaji. They were now at a dead end and couldn't find a way out. Unless someone could unmask Hong Ying, but who had the ability to do so? Everyone present had complicated expressions. Hong Ying smiled. Magistrate Wei, why aren't you saying anything? Am I wrong? Wei Shilai looked at Hong Ying angrily and helplessly. He could not do anything to Hong Ying and could not expose her. Old Master Zhou had already gotten someone to take Zhou Yanshu away. His expression was solemn as he looked at the unconscious Li Yaji and then at Hong Ying. He said in a low voice, "Others can't tell who is real or fake, but I believe that my grandson, whom you married, can tell the truth." Now, even old Master Zhou had no choice. The only way was to send a letter to his grandson, Zhou Qingguan, who was in the capital, to ask for leave and return to his hometown. Outsiders could not be able to tell the difference, but Zhou Qingguan, the husband, should be able to. Hong Ying smiled faintly. That's a good idea. Wei Shilai was shocked. Even at this time, the fake one was still so calm. Old master, this. Madam, Butler Zhou looked at the unconscious Li Yaji and asked. How should we settle her? Old Master Zhou frowned. Put her in the west courtyard. After receiving the instruction, Butler Zhou immediately made the arrangements. Old Master Zhou looked at Wei Shilai. Magistrate Wei, this way please. Not only did this matter not get resolved, it became even more complicated. Old Master Zhou wanted to call his son and grandson back, but he was afraid that none of them could tell who was the real one. Wei Shilai was troubled. The only way now was to unmask the impostor, but where could he find a person who had the ability to do so? They went to the front hall. Old Master Zhou said to Wei Shilai, Magistrate Wei, I'll have to trouble you with this matter. Please find the impostor. Wei Shilai said solemnly, Old Master Zhou, it's my job and I'll do my best. After leaving the Zhou mansion, Wei Shilai felt like his legs weighed 1,000 pounds. He personally sent Lu Sanyang home. On the way, he was silent. After a long time, Wei Shilai sighed heavily. Lu Sanyang couldn't help but feel worried. She thought for a moment and said, Sir, there are some capable people in Yong County. They might have a way. Impostor was after all an impostor. Nothing was inexhaustible, and so was power. Lu Sanyang had power, so she knew that there would be times when her power would run out. Wei Shilai thanked her. Miss Lu, thank you so much. I'll think of a way. Lu Sanyang nodded. When they parted, Lu Sanyang said, Sir, can you help me pass a message to Officer Zhou? Wei Shilai nodded. Miss Lu, go ahead. Lu Sanyang recalled the black aura on Officer Zhou. She did not know what it was, but her intuition told her that it was not something good. Please tell him to come to me if he's still willing to let me help him. Lu Sanyang told him seriously. Wei Shilai nodded. Don't worry, Miss Lu. I'll definitely convey your message. Lin Zheng had a complicated expression. Miss Lu, can I ask you for help? Wei Shilai looked at Lin Zheng. He had been with him for several years. He looked cold and heartless, but everyone had secrets, and Lin Zheng was no exception. Lu Sanyang nodded. Yes. Lin Mu looked at Lu Sanyang and said, Thank you. She smiled and turned to go home. Wei Shilai was very busy. He had to send the children he rescued back, but before that, he had to ask a doctor to check on these children in case they were poisoned. When Lu Sanyang returned home, it was already dark. The moment she entered, Lu Erlang, who was eating, looked up and smiled. Sanyang, you're back. Have you eaten? Lu Daoang glanced at Lu Sanyang. Come and eat. Mr. Lu took a sip of wine. Erlang, go get a bowl for your sister. Madame Wei looked at Lu Sanyang worriedly. When she saw that her daughter was fine, she was relieved and did not say anything. Lu Erlang had already stood up to get a bowl and chopsticks for Lu Sanyang. Lu Sanyang sat down beside Lu Daoang and ate together. After dinner, Lu Sanyang cleaned up the dishes. Madame Wei pulled her hand. Erlang will wash the dishes. Lu Erlang muttered. I was the one who got a bowl and chopsticks for Sanyang. Let Daoang wash the dishes. Lu Daoang glared at him. Lu Erlang stopped talking and quietly went to wash the dishes. Madame Wei pulled Lu Sanyang to her room and closed the door. Madame Wei asked worriedly. Is everything all right? Just as Lu Sanyang was about to explain to Madame Wei, she suddenly raised her hand. Don't say it. I don't want to hear it. Seeing her daughter's expression, Madame Wei wanted to cry. She didn't want her daughter to get involved in anything dangerous. The ability that was given to her would eventually put her in great danger. Madame Wei looked serious. Sanyang, promise me that you won't tell anyone about your power, okay? Lu Sanyang nodded. Okay. Madame Wei sighed and gently hugged Lu Sanyang. I just hope that you can find a good husband and live a happy life. Chapter 49. Reading the Dead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 49. Reading the Dead. When Lu Sanyang heard this, she wanted to cry. This had been her mother's wish for 2 lifetimes. Nothing was more important to her than her mother. Lu Sanyang nodded. Yes, I promise you. She would definitely find a good husband, have children, live a perfect life, and die without regrets. With Lu Sanyang's assurance, Madame Wei was finally relieved. After Madame Wei left, Lu Sanyang washed up and went to sleep. In a daze, she opened her eyes and found herself in an unfamiliar place. Lu Sanyang was awake. She reached out but could not touch anything. She knew that she was in a dream. This time was different. She walked into the path and heard a lot of laughter. She looked toward the source of the voice. It was a family holding a child they had lost and found. They were crying and laughing and kissing the child. The child leaned into his mother's arms and smiled, as if he could feel her mother's love. Lu Sanyang felt a warmth in her heart. A golden light flew towards her and entered her body. She felt very comfortable. She was like a spectator looking at a family reunion. When Lu Sanyang woke up, the sky was already bright. She opened her eyes and could feel that her strength had increased a little. There was a hint of determination in her eyes. It was a path she had never taken in her previous life. It was as if she was enlightened and could understand some things that she did not understand before. Madame Wei had already gone to work and her father and brother had gone to the fields. Lu Sanyang found the breakfast they left for her in the pot. The porridge was delicious, and the fragrant vegetable bun was simply superb. Madame Wei's culinary skills were terrific. Lu Sanyang narrowed her eyes and ate with a smile before going out. She already had a way to deal with Hong Ying. Lu Sanyang came to the government office. She asked the officer to inform the magistrate of her coming. This time, the officer quickly went to deliver the message. Soon, Wei Shilai came out in person. Miss Lu, please come in. Lu Sanyang followed Wei Shilai into the inner hall. Wei Shilai was looking at the results of the autopsy. The men had committed suicide by taking poison, but strangely, their poison sacs were not in their teeth, but in their stomachs. Wei Shilai felt stumped by this case again. Lu Sanyang said, Sir, I think I can give it a try. Wei Shilai was surprised. Try what? Lu Sanyang said, I can try to unmask Hong Ying, but I'm not sure if it will work. Wei Shilai was delighted. Miss Lu, I'm grateful enough as long as you are willing to try. It doesn't matter if you fail. Lu Sanyang smiled. Before that, I want to see the corpses of those people. Lu Sanyang needed to find out step by step what was the key to breaking Hong Ying's ability. And there was definitely something that those corpses could tell her about Hong Ying. Wei Shilai frowned. Miss Lu, their corpses are not pleasing to the eye. You have to be mentally prepared. Lu Sanyang was only a 14-year-old girl, unlike those who got used to seeing dead bodies and did not think much of it after a point in time. However, ordinary people usually couldn't accept it. Lu Sanyang knew she'd definitely feel disgusted, but she was still willing to try. I know. For some reason, she was just disgusted, but not afraid. The corpses couldn't be more terrifying than Chu Yen, could they? Wei Shilai really admired Lu Sanyang. He personally took her to see the corpses. The bodies were still at the government office and had not been sent to the newly built mortuary yet. The government office had a separate place to keep the corpses. When Wei Shilai brought Lu Sanyang over, the coroner was also present. Lin Zheng and Officer Zhou were both there to help. Wei Shilai waved his hand and asked the others to leave. Only Lin Zheng, Officer Zhou, and the coroner were left in the mortuary. Officer Zhou looked at Lu Sanyang in surprise. Miss Lu, you, Lu Sanyang looked at Officer Zhou. The black aura around him had increased. Lu Sanyang frowned. Officer Zhou, have you encountered anything recently? Officer Zhou was confused by the question and replied. No, other than helping the magistrate investigate the case, he did not do anything else. Why did Lu Sanyang ask this? Lu Sanyang shook her head. She could only see Officer Zhou being devoured by the black aura, but she did not know what it was or where it came from. Other than Officer Zhou, who was a little confused, no one else thought much about it. Wei Shilai said, Miss Lu, all 7 corpses are here. The coroner started to speak. They all committed suicide by poisoning. The poison is powerful and is in the stomach. Once it's triggered, they'll die on the spot. Wei Shilai nodded. Yes. After they were captured, they died right away. He was really angry that he didn't even get a chance to interrogate them. Lu Sanyang walked over. Lin Jing said, Miss Lu, be mentally prepared. Their eyes are still open. Wei Shilai added hastily. Yes, yes, yes. The coroner frowned. This girl was extraordinarily bold. Did her parents and brother know that she was so brave? Lu Sanyang smiled. She was not afraid. She pulled apart the white cloth covering the dead man's face and looked at it. The dead man's face was green. For some reason, his eyes couldn't close. They were wide open and the body already had livor mortis. His expression seemed to indicate that he died in pain. Lu Sanyang frowned. She reached out and released her power. She was stronger now. Even if he was dead, she could read everything about him. The body was dead, but the soul was still alive. He had committed heinous crimes when he was alive, so he could not be relieved after he died. That was why he died with a pained expression and his eyes open. Lu Sanyang closed her eyes and quietly explored his mind. Not long after, she heard painful moans and cries for help. They were dead, but their souls were imprisoned in their bodies and could not be freed. They were in extreme pain. Now that someone could sense them, they naturally cried for help crazily. Chapter 50. Karma of Sin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50. Karma of Sin. Lu Sanyang used her power to forcefully suppress the 7 crazy souls and obtained what they knew. She knew the source of their abilities as well as how to break them. The souls were trembling, begging for mercy. Being imprisoned in the body was too painful. They died without fear, but only after death did they know what terror was. One reaped what one sowed. Karma never failed to befall anyone. Lu Sanyang opened her eyes with a calm expression. Though her expression remained unchanged, it gave people a feeling that she was a formidable master. Wei Shilai was stunned and looked at Lu Sanyang in a daze. Lu Sanyang looked at the 7 corpses and chanted. Namo Amitabha Buddha, note. Amitabha Pure Land Rebirth Mantra. The scripture that Lu Sanyang recited was so powerful that Wei Shilai and the others held their breath. As Lu Sanyang finished her chanting, the air in the room became less oppressive. Wei Shilai, Lin Zheng, and the others felt a little refreshed. This was the first time Lu Sanyang had chanted the rebirth mantra. She had helped them reincarnate, but most likely, they would only reincarnate into animals in their next lives. They would suffer and pay for their sins. With the golden light flying into her body, Lu Sanyang felt at ease. This is really strange. Why are their eyes closed now? The coroner immediately noticed that the corpse's eyes, which could not be shut earlier, were closed now. Wei Shilai looked over and saw that it was indeed so. The painful expression on their faces had also disappeared. The coroner pulled back the white cloth covering the other 6 corpses. Without exception, everyone's eyes were closed, and their stiff expressions of pain had eased. They were calm, as if they had fallen asleep. Wei Shilai looked at Lu Sanyang with respect. Miss Lu. Lu Sanyang smiled. I've helped them reincarnate. I already know how to break Hong Ying's ability. Wei Shilai clapped his hands happily. That's great. Yesterday, he thought that it would be good if Lu Sanyang could find a way, but she did not know what to do. However, after a night, Lu Sanyang became stronger. It was as if she had suddenly understood something. Wei Shilai was happy and worried at the same time. He didn't know if it was a good thing for Lu Sanyang to walk down this path. Her mother's heart probably ached terribly. Lu Sanyang was not in a hurry. She looked at Officer Zhou to find that he was still surrounded by a lot of black aura. Hong Ying was no longer a threat, so it didn't matter if she took a break. Officer Zhou was a good person. He looked like he needed help more than anyone at this moment. Officer Zhou saw Lu Sanyang looking at him and smiled. Miss Lu, what did you just chant? Listening to you, I feel much more relaxed. It was the kind of comfort that came from the deepest of my soul. I don't know why, but I keep feeling tired these days. It's as if I'm burdened with 1,000 pounds. Officer Zhou stretched his body. He really wished he could listen to that scripture a few more times. Lu Sanyang looked at Officer Zhou. Uncle Zhou, to be honest, I saw a lot of black aura on you. This thing is very strange. Come closer. I'll help you see what it is. Officer Zhou was shocked. There's black aura on my body. Is it because of this black aura that I'm so tired? Lu Sanyang nodded. I think so. Officer Zhou continued. When you saw me 2 days ago, your expression was a little strange. Did you see the black aura on my body back then? Lu Sanyang nodded. She did not take a closer look at that time and did not have time. Officer Zhou walked to Lu Sanyang with a solemn expression. Miss Lu, please help me. I can't die yet. I haven't found my daughter. If I die now, I'll be letting her down. Lu Sanyang knew that the Officer Zhou was talking about was his deceased wife. The loss of his eldest daughter had become a knot in Officer Zhou's heart. He would not be at ease without finding his daughter, not until he died. Lu Sanyang looked at Officer Zhou and said, Give me your hand. Officer Zhou stretched out his hand. His hands were calloused and old. Lu Sanyang gently held his hand. She closed her eyes and sensed. The memories that belonged to Officer Zhou drowned her like a tide. The memories surged like a flood. Lu Sanyang stood among them. She saw Officer Zhou when he was young. He married a woman happily. They respected each other and lived a very sweet life. The couple was loving and their family life was harmonious. Not long after Officer Zhou got married, his wife was pregnant. As a father for the first time, Officer Zhou was so excited that he was at a loss. As his wife's stomach gradually grew bigger, he would stroke her bulging stomach and say a little foolishly, "I'm your father. I'm your father." Officer Zhou was the only son, and his parents were also nice people. The two elders were also happy that their son and his wife had a good relationship. After 10 months of pregnancy, she gave birth to a daughter. Officer Zhou's wife felt a little guilty that she could not give birth to a son. However, Officer Zhou's family was very happy. The old man comforted Officer Zhou's wife and told her not to worry. Officer Zhou's eldest daughter was Zhou Mingzhu, the apple of his eye. Zhou Mingzhu was protected by his family and looked very cute. Officer Zhou doted on her more than anything in this world. Officer Zhou's wife, who was originally worried that her daughter would not be liked, was relieved. When Zhou Mingzhu was 2 years old, she was pregnant again. The family was also looking forward to the second child. But one day, Zhou Mingzhu was lost. They couldn't find her. The entire family searched anxiously for a long time. As a result, Officer Zhou's wife had a miscarriage and her body became weak. Zhou Mingzhu was lost, and the entire family fell into grief. Officer Zhou's wife collapsed and died of illness within 2 years. Before she died, her eyes were filled with tears. She grabbed Officer Zhou's hand, full of regret and self-blame. "Don't give up. Find our daughter." Officer Zhou agreed while crying. He kept his promise and had never given up on searching for her. After his wife passed away, under the pleading of his parents, he married another woman and had a child. It was a son. A few years ago, Officer Zhou's parents passed away one after another. On their deathbeds, they sighed, guilty and regretful that they couldn't protect their granddaughter.